So today we're going to laugh a little bit, and soon you will have opportunities to tell your stories about how she got you somehow.
I just look around, and my friends are here, her friends are here.
Don wishes you to please have a drink on him and the family, and I see that we're all smiled up so far. So one of her little precocious things was a little thing that went
Victim!
Got bingo. So she was ingenious about it. It wasn't a poo-poo cushion, it was a battery-operated something. So she would show you a chair, which was timely placed beneath the pillows, and then pretty soon it would go, and she'd go, gotcha!
She lost another one.
She lost another one. So anyway, I think I just pretty much defined the word. So, but she was, I knew her about 40 years, and I will start it off my little gotcha situation. We were in this very room, and our volunteers dinner. At the table, Teri was sitting next to me. And as Teri would do during some of those situations, she got a little bored. So those little 2 packages of cooked crackers in a plastic bag. So she takes one, crunches it all up with her hand in the virtual powder, tears it open, grabs my hand, rolls it over, and filled my hand with cracker dust. And I didn't say that because I'm playing along. I'm not going to let her get away with this too far. Well, coincidentally, our salads arrived. So I figured, well, what the hell? It's just a crouton in powder form. So I sprinkled it on my salad. And we finished salads before our entrees came. And she goes, so how was your salad? And I went, crummy! And we laughed our asses off. Typical situation. To get it going, does anybody have a gotcha story?
Teri called and she said, you and Don have ate out of that concession stand for a week. I'm gonna bring you some dinner. When I told Don, he went, oh no. Those of you who knew Teri probably knew cooking was not her forte. You know, we used to say the flies took up a donation to fix the screen so they couldn't get into her cooking. That particular day, she came over. She had glasses with napkins. She set out this beautiful place setting for us. We had chicken and salad and I don't remember what else. Who knows with her. And when she left, Don says, "Look at the bottom." The chicken was beautiful on top. It was black on the bottom. And she told me later, she said, well, I needed something for the salad, so I put the chicken in and went to the store. After they won the lotto, and Don had said one of the things he was going to do is get a new boat. So we went, they invited us to go with them. Every boat we got on, she walked right past the galley and said, Vicki, you look at it, because I'm not going to use it. And sure enough, you know, when you went on that boat, if you opened up the oven, it was full of chips. She did? Yeah. We put on a Little League conference, and a couple of things happened during that thing. When we had this nice big dinner for everybody, she was sitting next to me, and Teri wasn't a big drinker. Well, that night she was. Because every time she turned her head, I would pour some of mine in it. So she really didn't think she was drinking much. Well, then the next thing I know, she's on her knees, crawling under the tables, and we had long, long tables, and she was reaching up and stealing the cloth napkins. Because she liked cloth napkins, right? And another thing that happened is, you know, Teri used to dress up like a gorilla. She went and put a gorilla costume on at that thing, came in with bananas. It just so happened that in our area, there was a gentleman who was bald. She rubbed that banana in his head. And that shouldn't surprise any of you that she did something like that. And one other thing she did in there, one of the vendors that we had wouldn't give her a sample. Well, this poor vendor had he got up to the elevator. Teri was in the elevator. When she opened the door, he was standing there. She took her foot, stuck it between his legs, and yanked him into the elevator. And then she was the elevator lady. You know, like, this floor's lingerie, this is, you know, all the way up. This poor man tried to get out of that elevator, and every time he did, she'd hook him and pull him back in. You know, I don't know how long she had him on there, but it was a long time. And I don't know if all of you know this, but Teri liked to steal. We went to a Chinese restaurant, a very nice one in Seattle. We get back out to the car, she opens her purse, she's got the teapot from the table. And Dawn was telling me this, when they were in a hotel, she would go out and go down the hallway, see what was on the trays, and see what she could steal. She knew. You know, we did a lot of boating with them, and we had so much fun with them. It was just a kick. You never knew what she was going to do, and I am truly going to miss her for that. You know, a couple more things, and I'm sorry, Dennis, I'm a talker. For one of the boating parades that we were in, she dressed Dawn up as Mickey Mouse. I'm surprised it wasn't Scooby-Doo, but she did Mickey Mouse on him. And another time, before we moved on board, we had a Halloween party at our house. She made a mermaid costume for him. And she brought him in a wagon. And she was the fisherman. She had the yellow rain slicker and the hat and everything. Poor Dawn was in this mermaid suit the whole night. I think she finally took the bottom off so he could walk around. But, yeah. Okay, I'm done.
She's standing back in the galley that she apparently never used by the microwave with potato chips. And she's looking at me and she says, "I don't like you." And I'm like, "What do you mean you don't like me? I just met you." She said, "All these people keep saying Teri, I don't know who the hell they're talking to."
So yeah, I'm Liz, and I'm Teri's daughter-in-law, married to Michael. And I met Teri in 2006. I was a bartender at Arnie's. I was 23. Michael here was 32, and owned a restaurant up the street. So I went out to see him, just to chit-chat. There was this short little woman with very, very spiky hair, and I didn't know then that would be my mother-in-law. But that was our first meet cute. After that, I moved myself into Michael's house a few years later, and I remember Teri saying to me, "Well, you know, I just don't get to know Michael's girlfriends. There've been so many." but I stuck around. And I learned about a mother who really loved her son. And for a woman who does not cook, she sure used food as a way to show love. So if there was ever, Mike was sick, we'd have all this food come to the house. When we had Lucy, she'd go over there after daycare, and it would be a little baggie of goldfish. It would be like a half gallon of goldfish. There was always just a little extra. When I met Mike, she was doing his laundry, and Mike said, I swear, I'm a 30-year-old man, I can do my own laundry, but this is, my mom's way of saying, I love you. And I said, that's fine, she's not doing it anymore, and I'm not doing it either. So I got a real raw deal out of you, but I did put the kibosh on that. If you knew Teri, you knew she was Mrs. Claus. She loved Christmas, and I knew that I was in the family when she presented this beautiful hand-beaded Christmas stocking with my name. So I knew I cracked the code. I wasn't just one of those many girlfriends.
No, maybe not.
But yes, she was definitely full of mischief, and we will keep the pantsing alive in our house. There's fingers and mouths when we yawn, and we always will think of Teri when we are doing these antics. So when Mike and I were ready to have my daughter, Miss Lucy, we came across a few problems, and so we went through the IVF route. Dawn and Teri and my parents very kindly helped us with the IVF payments, and I was very clear that this did not give ownership or parental rights. Somehow, my mother finagled naming rights, and I'm not sure how that might happen, but we have Big Lucy and Little Lucy now. Back to the stealing. I didn't realize the stealing was such a thing until you put it together for me, like right now. But yes, when we got engaged, she stole the champagne glasses from the restaurant and put in my house, and I'm an accomplice. So it definitely little klepto tendencies of her.
I don't know, how many of you in the room have had a haircut by Teri? Anybody? All right. So I don't know about you, but I was always waiting for the water to squirt in the hair. She'd cut your hair, she would squirt your hair down with some water, and every time she would get you, and she did say, gotcha.
Cindy and I were waiting, and so we started to play bocce ball,
Yeah.
lawn bowling or something.
Bocce ball.
Bocce ball. So this lady comes walking by with this nice, cool-looking dog, and she goes, "Have you guys played this game before?" And my wife says, "No, this is our first time." And something along the lines of, "Yeah, it shows."
One day I had to stop off at the grocery store, coming home from a little way. I'm going down the aisle, and up ahead I can see this gal, and she's going down the aisle away from me. And I see candy wrappers, and I could see crumbs coming from donuts and this and that. Well, I got up there, and it was Teri. And she said right away, "Don't tell Dawn."
She was always playing pranks on him, so she was sitting downstairs at the lake house, and my dad said she went to the bathroom, and while she was in the bathroom, he took a cigarette and stuck it in some dip. I don't know what kind of dip it was, and put it in there and set the cigarette back down. She grabbed the cigarette and put it in her mouth, and she looked at him and said, "Got me."
One year, they came up and we went into Victoria Harbor, and we had such a great time. And we're walking around the streets, it was a beautiful day, and had a nice lunch and just kind of sightseeing and window shopping. And all of a sudden, Clay gets dive bombed. He is covered in seagull crap. Just, it got down his neck, it was in his hair, it was in his glasses, he used to wear glasses. Anyhow, Teri cracked up. She was beside herself laughing. She was laughing so hard, she had to sit down on the side of the sidewalk. And I said, I thought she fell, and she said, no, I was laughing so hard I couldn't stand up. She says, and I think I peed myself.
There's some friends of theirs, there's no names on here, but you'll get the gist of it. They were invited to Dawn and Terry's house. And it says here, she goes, I remember one time coming to the front door, and Teri opened the door and jumped into my husband's arms, and the only thing she had on was her nightgown. And but that was the end, but you can just imagine the sudden shock. This guy's name was Dale, and he took it all with a grin, but that was typical of the shock value of this woman's sense of humor.
You heard so many stories, and sometimes it's like, initially you think, oh my God, does she not like me? You know, it was like, oh, yeah, she seems, a little mean, right? No, she was just fun, and we always had fun. She loved to go shopping. She loved going to Michael's, to fabrics. She loved going to lunch. We always went to this dive bar for lunch because we loved their hamburgers. We just did so many things together. We went to Hawaii. Where we just had the fabulous time, just laughed and joked, and we were just so happy. And it's like, darn it, Teri, when she broke her hip, that was when poor Don goes, Teri can't go with you anymore because something always happens. So we were at lunch at a Mexican restaurant. We had to step up to get into the booth. When we were done, we got up and Teri forgot the step. So she fell. Boom. She broke her tip, but what happened was the firemen that came were extremely good looking. And she looks like, oh my God, Teri, look at these fires. She goes, yeah, I know. Hello, I did this. Hello. Anyway, and that was scary. So it's like, oh my gosh, everything. So Don was always afraid that when I called that I was at the emergency room with Teri. There were a few times there we was at the emergency room with Teri, with something. So
I think 3 times.
3 times, yeah. Okay, 3 times.
At Aunt Dot's cabin up in Cleellum, and the sprinklers would go on. And my uncle had gotten me several times that week already of me coming back up from the creek and me needing to time getting through the sprinklers without getting wet. And Tip had gotten me wet every single time. And so they're all up on the deck trying to yell to me when I could make it without getting wet. And Mike was up there, and Tip was telling me to go, and Mike was telling me to go, and I knew that I could not trust either of them. And so they kept trying to reassure me, and I keep watching the sprinkler, and finally Aunt Teri comes out, and she's like, no, Cam, it's okay. I wouldn't lie. I won't let you get wet. And she knew that it had bothered me all week, so I hoped that she had taken that knowledge and was really gonna not screw with me, but she did. And I was so mad. I felt so betrayed. That same trip too, she went out and got me a big fat thing of lip gloss because I was like 11 or 12, and so that was the time for that. And she was like, oh, put some on, put more on, go outside. It was like dusk. I had so many bugs landing on my lips. So she was really there for the long haul when you needed her to do important things, or you needed her to have your back and accomplish something great. And I think that I just didn't want that part of her to be overlooked. She was crazy and obnoxious and rude in so many instances. But she also was so loving and sincere and helpful and creative and smart and funny and talented, unbelievably talented. And I'm just grateful that I got to experience that.
Words can't describe what she really meant to us, to our girls, to my wife. I feel very fortunate. Somewhere along the line, Don became Frantpa, Teri became Frama, combination between friends and Grandpa and Grandma. Joan says in her times, her relationship with Teri
was like best friends. At times it was like sisters. At times it was like mother and daughter. But all the time it was with lots of love.
The first time I met Dawn and Teri, Dawn and I both had brand new Bayliner boats. And we came to the Bayliner rendezvous at Roche Harbor. Don had already berthed his boat. He was bow in. And for some reason, I decided, well, I was going to turn around and stern into their boat. The wind was blowing like hell. I was having a hell of a time trying to get to the dock. Don was up top on the bridge. I really didn't notice him. But Teri was standing on the back deck, watching me try to get this 40-foot boat with the wind in the dock. And I had to kind of give it a little bit of power to make the whole thing work. And I'm just about ready to get out to throw the lines off. And she looks over the back of the boat and says, "You're coming in a little fast, aren't you?" And I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was something to the effect of, "Lady, I don't have time for that right now. I'm a little busy." So I got the boat tied up, and soon I was standing in the back, and down from the bridge comes Don. And he looks at me, and he looks at Teri, and he says, "We've only been here 15 minutes, and you're already pissing off the neighbors." She stood there on the back deck and daggers at me. I mean, like right through me, right through. And I said, "Oh my God, this is going to be a fun 4 days." Anyway, we kind of got together later. They invited us aboard. And for 25 years, stories of Teri, there's a million, you've all heard them. I can tell 1,000, but I'd run out of breath. She was a sweetheart. We loved to walk the dock together, and the two of us always got in trouble. And he wasn't even there, it was just her and me. And you'd walk along the dock, you'd be at a rendezvous or somewhere for 2 or 3 days, and I'd be walking with her in the dock, and you'd hear, "That's them, those two, that's them." Just had so many wonderful times. And I think the one thing that I'll always remember was so sweet to me. The first time I was on their boat, she had chocolate-covered peanuts, and she got them from Costco. And I dove into that can, and I must have ate half of it. Every year. And they'd come to Canada, or we'd be at Roche Harbor. We'd get together 2 or 3 times a year in our boat. Every single year, I came on their boat. There was that jar of chocolate-covered peanuts for me. I loved her dearly, but I was going to miss her a lot.
She loved you, buddy. I had to put up with that constantly, and when people says, that she did things, if you look at my daughter-in-law, by the way, wrote that obituary, and when she says Dawn was teased all the time, Susan, they all know. But you get used to it after a while, but I didn't realize she's such a thief.
How could she be such a thief when you were a cop?
Well, that's what I say I was. I guess I was. Bill Davenport right over there. Him and me and Tucker, we could go on for stories all the time. Bill retired from the Everett Police Department, and he saved my bacon out there once with 2 tow truck drivers. But anyway, the thing is she was so good. No, the cops never caught her doing it either. But anyway, again, I just look around, and my friends are here. Her friends are here. Some of them. There's one guy, what I had breakfast with, Nikki and Dave. Hopkins over here. They came from Chicago, and I think, 30 years since I've seen you guys? And Dave, before people go, he told me something when we were talking on the phone. And I told him this morning that you should say that. But he says, Teri was very special to me when Lou met him, or met her, that she's the only adult would talk to me like I was an adult. She had a way of talking to kids. And Dave still remembers it, that he's a little shy because I told him, I said, I want you to go up there and tell those people. So you got me again, Dave. But again, I want to acknowledge them coming from Chicago, Clay and Sue, that's must, from Canada, and all these other friends. And believe me, Vicky over here, she's just as bad as Teri. So when it came to doing things, I hated to see them get together. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to take a few minutes and thank them. And the Arnolds coming here. Mike couldn't have married into a better family. And I was sorry that their old classmate wasn't able to come here because both Arnolds are the same age as Teri. And we found out, a couple of years ago, I guess, down at their house, Teri said, you know, you might remember my old boyfriend. And he's a lawyer too. Both of them are lawyers. And because he went to University of Washington. So Phil says, well, what was his name? He's Gary Taylor. Gary Taylor. They were the class couple. Well, this is what I've heard for 55 years. Every time we had a little disagreement, I call him Gary Taylor. You know, we were the class couple. So I had never met Gary Taylor. And both Lucy and Phil went through the University of Washington Huskies. And then they went to law school in Gonzaga with Gary Taylor, the class couple. So I was thinking, and Mike was, we were up at the hospital with her, and she, you know, Teri and ventilator and all this other stuff. And I said, you know, Mike, I don't know how to get the word down to Canada, or Canada. No, up to Canada, but down to Seattle or Redmond, where they were. But Gary Taylor he runs the reunions down there. Now I have never talked to him, never seen him. I did her class couple. So I said, Mike, you know, maybe I could get a hold of Gary and tell that she, you know, if she passes. And he goes, oh, Jesus, no. So, probably 20 minutes after she passed away, I'm out in the parking lot of the Providence Hospital. And I thought, doggone it, I better call Gary. And so, I went on the phone and I said the phone number for an attorney in Seattle, Gary Taylor. And they came back and gave the phone number. In the meantime, prior to that, he wrote a book about his life history and sent it to Teri. And I thought, that's the most egotistical thing I've ever thought of. So after she read it, she asked me if I wanted to read it. I said, oh yeah. I want to tell you, everybody here, because he couldn't come here because he just had an operation, back operation and stuff. This guy's a good guy. And my niece over there heard that I had got a hold of him and we were going to meet. And I think Cam says, only Uncle Donald would do something like that. Well, I wanted to, it was him, and when he answered the phone, I says, is this Gary Taylor, the attorney? And he says, yes, in Seattle, yes. I said, did you go to Rainier Beach High School? And he says, yeah. And I says, did you know a girl named Teri Mahalchek? And it just kind of, he goes, well, who's this? I says, this is Don Hopkins. Boy, just quiet. And he says, really? I says, yeah. I says, I want to get a hold of you because you run your reunions and stuff down there. I says, would you pass the word out? And he said, well, certainly. I said, okay. He said, okay. And then he had my number, so he called me back a couple weeks later. And he says, I'd like to meet you, and so would Janice. And Janice was her best friend in high school. And after I read the book, he came from a very dysfunctional family, and he met Teri, I guess, in the freshman year or whatever, and he loved going over to the Mahalchek's house. He says the only thing that made it through because his brothers and they all messed up, and the parents and all that. I want to tell you right now in front of everybody, he's a great guy. I went down and had lunch with him, and he was going to be here, but they put it off, you know, the operation. He just had it done Wednesday, so he couldn't come. But he said something to me, what I thought was really cool when I was leaving. He grabbed my hand, shook hands, and he says, you were married to her for 55 years. And I was her boyfriend, but really, the Mahalchek family was my girlfriend, the whole family. And he asked all about them. And he says, you know, in 59 years, she only had what she'd call 2 boyfriends. And he says, I ended up with the red ribbon or excuse me, yeah, the red ribbon. He says, but you got the blue ribbon. So that just shows you, and Carl, he really is a good guy. So, but anyway, I just want to thank everybody here. There's a lot of things happening. Okay, and I'll let Dennis, I told you.
I gotta get new batteries over there. You guys have got a new drink or have a drink or whatever. If you could please maybe stand up in honor of this fabulously funny, unusual, beautiful-hearted lady who made us all laugh. No tears today, folks. Here's to Teri. Hey!